Hello, welcome back to Rich Tech. Today we've got a disaster. This is a 60-watt Magsafe 1 L-shaped charger. It has an L-shaped connector, but as you can see it is filthy, and yes, it is fit for the dustbin. It's partially open, and I assume someone tried to wrap some tape around it to hold it together, and some repairs were done as such. So let me open up to see what's inside. Wow, that's the inside of it. The V out cable is still sticking to it, while the return cable has been cut somewhere in there. So this is the V out. That's our charger. Can this charger get back to life and be as good as new? Now here at Rich Tech we specialize in this. Let's see what we can do with this. Before we undertake this repair, I would like to ask you, if you haven't done so, kindly subscribe, like and share. Now let's get down to this. This charger looks filthy, and before we go too far in our repairs, the first thing we should check out is if it is working. There's no point wasting time in this, and yet it is not working. So I'll try to get a spare cable and use it to test if this is working. Just cut off this point, then peel off a bit of this positive wire or V out wire so that we can test from that point. As you can see, the V return cable is barely visible there. Now, I've got a spare cable which I usually use to test. I'm going to try to use it to test if this charger is still working. Then we can proceed with the repairs. The charger, I've got my power source, and for these chargers we need to be very careful with them, because maybe that this charger has been exposed to water and something might blow up inside. So as a matter of caution, I'll just return this cover on top while I attach this power cable. I've already put on the power in this cable, so there is one reason why I want to attach this while the power is on in this cable. I want to see if this charger has input. If it has input, you'll hear a pop after I've attached this. Let's see. Oh, that's a good sign. That pop shows us that this charger has an input. That's a good sign. And it hasn't blown up in our faces. We can remove this now. So there's power flowing through this. Now we want to attach our output cables right there. And I've got a MacBook nearby. Connect my MacBook to the cable, and I'll connect the ends of the cable to this charger. Now here we've got to be careful not to cause any shorts. The positive V out will go with the insulated cable. Let's watch at the connector. And surprise, surprise, this charger is still working, even though it's filthy and it's worn out. You can see here right here. The connector is coming on. Our MacBook is full, so it can turn to amber, but here it shows that our charger is bringing in voltage and it's working. So this is a big surprise, but having worked with such chargers, I've come to notice that many people throw them away after they've reached this stage. They do not know much to do with them, and this is where we come in at RichTech. We revive all dead chargers, give them a new lease of life, and by the end of this charger will not only look new, but it will be functional. You won't be able to know that it is this filthy, rotten charger. There's the serial number. Here is the casing. The casing has been modified with a lot of glue and gum, and it is all gunky. Now, to repair this charger, obviously we'll need a new casing. We'll need an output cable, and yeah, those two things are important. Let's get down to this. After comparing many cases or casings, I found out that this is the best. It's a Magsafe 2 power adapter casing, so our charger fits in right in there nicely, and once this is closed up and cleaned, it will look like a new charger. So we'll settle with that together with these clips, and of course that rubber junction right there. So out with the old, in with the new. And here is all we need to make a new charger. As you can see, we are really starting from scratch. From a worn out charger there to a connector, that's a Magsafe 2 connector, to the rubber junction, to these clips, to a cable, and then finally the casing. This charger is filthy, dirty, so we want to clean it a bit before we go any further with this repair. And for this we'll use a common toothbrush. Now the first thing we want to do is to repair or make up the cable of the charger, and to make it, we'll attach the cable to the connector at that point. So let's go ahead and repair this. If you are not new to this channel, you'll have seen us using this method that I'm using right now to repair this connector, to attach the connector to the new cable. And the procedure is this: we cut off the upper rubber insulation at this junction, being careful not to cut all the way down into the inner rubber insulation. This is how we do it. Cut a bit of it and then we pull it out. This is going to be used later, and we slide it over the new cable, which will be attached right there. Next, we prepare these ends for soldering, and for the junction, which we'll place somewhere there. Now, for those who are wondering if this connector is working, I've already tested it. Again, you'll have to see our previous videos to see how we test for the connectors. Now, we don't need all of this wire, so I'll cut it off somewhere there. And then I'll cut halfway through this rubber insulation. Again, you don't cut all through. and then remove the rubber insulation. Then expose the positive wire inside and cut this down to a manageable length. That is okay. And then prepare this end for soldering by cutting off 1 millimeter of the insulation of the positive wire. This is how you go about it. Now this is ready for soldering. We'll do the same on the cable end, expose the positive, and then we'll solder them together at that point. Now here is the end of our connector on the positive side, and on this other cable side I have the positive wire 2 already prepared. There is heat shrink tubing which is yellow in color. I'm holding it with this white piece of cable in place there. For those who don't know this and are new to the channel, we hold this heat shrink tubing here because we are going to use it to cover this joint once we have already soldered, and we hold it with this cable so that it does not shrink because we are using heat. And I've already applied solder to these ends, the ends of this wire here and the ends of this, so I just need to hold them together and solder them. Now we can put the heat shrink tubing over the joint. Here's the joint with the heat shrink tubing over our junction, so the joint is now fully insulated and you cannot be able to tell that we soldered there. Now we'll roll over these wires and these wires over this portion so that we can connect them and have continuity. From the connector side, we've laid down the negative wires over the joint. Now from the cable side, we want to lay down the negative wires over this. Here's the joint with the wires from the cable side also laid over the joint and covered with or held together with super glue. All round this is now okay. I've tested with a multimeter and seen that there's continuity between this cable, these wires on this side, and the pins. So we'll continue pulling on this rubber insulation until it covers this joint, and then we secure it with super glue. Just 1 millimeter to the end. At this point we'll apply super glue and quickly close this gap, which is enough. The gap is now closed. Wipe off the excess super glue. Squeeze it firmly. Next we'll pull this rubber insulation over this joint, and before we do that we apply some glue to this end. So we'll be sure that this will hold on firmly when we close up this joint. Then quickly pull it over this joint. And shape it. On this other end we put the rubber junction which will hold the point at which the charger meets the cable, and then we'll prepare this to solder to the charger itself. Now with the cable now completed, the next thing is to test it. if it's working, and we'll use our charger to be here to test it. I've connected to a power source. Now here's our cable. It's completed. Here are the ends which I will connect to this. Let's see if this connector and this cable is working. So the positive to the positive and negative to the negative. We see right here the cable is working. The connector is also working, and this is a good result. Now for the charger itself, we'll need to solder our wires at this point and this point is the negative. Now we are ready to solder. I've already put some solder both on this wire ends and on this cable end. So go ahead and solder this together. Insulate it with the insulating tape so that these two do not touch. You can use the heat shrink tubing or any other insulation. Only make sure that these two do not touch the ground and the V out cables. And just like that, we've already attached the positive side of the cable. We will solder the negative side. The negative V return wire has been soldered. Now we insulate it with tape. Both wires have been soldered to the circuit, and now our charger is starting to take shape. This charger is now ready for the casing, and the casing is here. Dirty, but we're going to change that position in a moment. And here is our new casing. New relatively. After a bit of cleaning, far cry from the old one, which is filthy. So let's fit this onto that charger there. Now we have fixed this junction, the end of this cable, with glue. That's super glue. Pull it all the way to the end there and let it stick. Then make a nice loop. That's how it will fit inside the charger. And now we are ready to put the charger inside this casing. This casing is for a 60 watt Magsafe 2, which is exactly what we are making here. It isn't completely open, but you can slide the charger in through here. And here we are, almost there. Charger is fitting fine inside the casing. It's looking rather new. And before we go any further, we'll do a final test. Connect it to a power source, and then connect it to our MacBook, and see how this is working. Wow, there we go, still working. The repair is progressing fine. So we go ahead and seal this. Move the power, check that everything is fitting fine all around. Is good. Check that this will fit fine. All the joints will fit well once we've closed this up permanently. And with that peace of mind, now we can apply glue and bring in the clips and close up this charger. Now gluing up the charger is an easy process. Only apply glue to the raised areas. Any raised area you apply glue. The only challenge is that it is a time conscious process. Once you apply the glue, it's a race against time because it starts to set. You don't want it to dry when the case is still open. You want it to dry as it holds the cases, the two parts of the case together. So I'll do this very quickly. Is applied. Insert the clips quickly. The inner and the outer clips. Then squeeze the charger shut. And here is the finished product. Remember our serial number? There it is. Is our cable, brand new cable. This is where we joined it. But the charger now is a completely new charger. Clips are opening. It is now ready for a new lease of life. And that's how you make a charger from different parts. Thanks again for watching this rather long video, but it was well worth it. And I'm grateful for your time. Kindly subscribe, like and share.